Why is Meghan Markle already coming under fire for the unreleased season of her Netflix show? What did a 104-year-old veteran say to move King Charles to tears? How did Prince Harry secretly pay tribute to his grandfather, Prince Philip, without even stepping foot in the UK? And why could Catherine, Princess of Wales, selecting a 24-seater dining table mean the end of the monarchy as we know it? Hello and welcome to Palace Confidential. I'm Jo Elvin and today I'm joined by the Daily Mail's diary editor Richard Eden, the newspaper's editor-at-large Richard Kay, and making her Palace Confidential debut, its chief showbusiness writer Alison Boshoff. Welcome to you all. Now, I know, I go on about it, but you know what? The secret is they make me go on about it. But if you haven't already, you really should subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals channel. We have just passed 480,000 subscribers. And if you're not one of those people, what are you doing? It's free, and it means that you will get notified whenever we post exciting royal content like this or Richard's Reading the Royals series. The last episode of that came out on Tuesday, and it looks into the truth behind Princess Anne and Queen Camilla's relationship. I know that you'll all be fascinated by that. It's brilliant, and it will play straight after this. Now, speaking of free, you should also sign up to our free Palace Confidential newsletter. You can scan the QR code that's on screen with your phone camera or click the link in the description below. It's absolutely jam-packed with exclusive royal stories from our panel of unrivaled experts and includes polls and quizzes that you don't want to miss. So we've got lots to talk about. Let's get on. I love a quiz. Don't you? Do you write the quizzes, Richard?
I help.
There you go. He earns his money. But let's start now with a trailer for season 2 of With Love, Meghan. Let's take a look.
Very uncute.
I love the idea of spending time together.
Hello!
And finding new ways to show people you care.
Look at that. Oh my gosh, I could do this every day.
Let's get creative and learn something new.
Nicely done.
I don't know what's happening. I'm so glad you came to show me how to do this. Is this working?
Today's about getting out of your comfort zone.
Richard Eden, I'm sure you have many, many thoughts. Let's hear some of them. What did you think of the trailer?
Oh my goodness. The problem I have with the trailer is, it's so
one problem?
It's so upbeat, it's jolly, it's got great music, but for me it just makes my heart sink because it brings back all these sort of traumatic memories of having to watch the first series for this programme.
Are you telling me you didn't get one positive thing with Love, Meghan? You
well,
haven't sprinkled a flower on your yogurt?
It was unintentionally amusing, put it that way, and it's given lots of inspiration to, sort of internet memes and jokes. So,
Indeed.
Yeah, but no, clearly it's more of the same. That's what we can expect. I mean, what did struck me as well was just such a contrast from the TV appearances of her husband, Prince Harry. I mean, last time we saw him, he was being interviewed by the BBC, moaning, complaining, looking desperately unhappy about a court case that he'd lost his appeal. And then we have the complete contrast with Meghan of upbeat, jolly, everything's great. And you
Laughing at pretzels.
Yeah, you think, wow, is this really a couple? They're just so different.
Well, they've both got different things to push, I guess. But what struck you about the guests in the new series?
The guests, well, because the whole thing is meant to be, this is Meghan and her mates, it's her pals from California coming round to stay. In the first series, we had her favourite makeup artist, Daniel Martin, who was meant to be staying, apart from, obviously, it's not her real house, it's a house they've hired to film the programme. But in this case, virtually all of them seemed to be stars of other Netflix programmes. They didn't seem to be friends at all. They were just popular figures from other programmes helping to boost Meghan's show.
But celebs always pretend that they're all friends, don't they?
True. I mean, they probably all hate each other as soon as they're off screen.
No, I don't think it's that either. They just kind of all recognise each other, so just go along with it.
Maybe.
Yeah. But Alison, where do you think we go from, how can you possibly top that fruit platter or sprinkling flowers on everything? What is there left from Meghan's world to impart?
Those lavender towels. I think we're entering the era of crafting. So the last one was really more about hostessing. This one, I think, she's doing more crafting. We can see, certainly in the trailer, she's making a kind of ghastly batik napkin. She's making some kind of peculiar hang them up things. I don't even know what they could be. No, it's not macrame. It looks almost like jewellery. I mean, I don't know. I do hear there are more flower sprinkles. She hasn't.
Thank goodness.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
the flower sprinkles industry is safe.
Yes.
In her hands.
Good.
And I think Richard's slightly unfair about the guests because we are going to get to have a look at Heather Dorak, who is genuinely her best friend. She's a Pilates instructor, and she went to Meghan's hen do at Soho Farmhouse, but wasn't able to attend the wedding. So I think there are some friends, but I do agree it is quite Netflix heavy.
Indeed. Now, speaking of Netflix, you, Alison, have been leading the charge with reporting on their Netflix deal. And in fact, you were the first person to reveal that they would receive this non-exclusive first look deal. Is that a win for the Sussexes to any extent?
It's the best they could possibly have hoped for. I think the best possible outcome. There's no way that they could get the same deal again because those deals just aren't being handed out. Those overall deals, those big money ones. I mean, you saw Phoebe Waller-Bridge, for instance, signed one with Amazon, and she was getting 20 million a year, which she got for 5 years without actually producing a single TV show. Okay, so everyone has woken up, they aren't good value. So they were never going to get that again, but Netflix love them. What these deals give you is a development fee, which can be generous or can be quite mingy, generally in the low millions. So, and it's what the Obamas have got. So, I mean, it is the best possible outcome. They save face. Netflix get the chance to say, pat on the back, we appreciate you. Thank you for what you've done for us already. No one's going to want a project that Netflix have passed on, by the way. So the kind of first look thing, don't get your knickers in a twist. All their content will still be on Netflix because no one's going to buy it if Netflix have passed on it.
Yes, I wondered about that. But and so when it comes to that, do you have any insight on whether or not there will be a third With Love Meghan series?
I don't think imminently. I think she's going to rest it. So what happened was she filmed the first 2 and the holiday special all at the same time. And I think she's going to rest it. I hear talk of another idea which she's interested in doing, which will more centre around lifestyle and travel a bit. So we're going back to her days on the TIG. You know, you look at what genuinely interests her. And I know she gets attacked a lot for being inauthentic and phony and whatever. Well, she's an actress, so go figure. But, if you go back to the TIG, she did like food. She called herself a foodie, even though she always admitted she's not much of a cook. So I think where she's at her best in the show is actually when she has someone on who actually has genuine expertise to impart, who is a person with some standing in the food community, because she's actually quite good at interviewing information out of people in a very relaxed way. And letting them demonstrate what it is that they can do.
As long as they get her title right, I should.
As long as they get her title right. But I don't think it's as bad. It's not as terrible as people say. It's not a terrible show by any means. It looks beautiful. It is quite entertaining and diverting. I mean, it's not going to leave you riveted to your chair, but I don't think it's as offensive as some people
It's quite
seem to think.
soothing, I think, for some people.
Yeah.
That's the word, isn't it?
Yeah, maybe a little dose.
Maybe. Well, let's bring it back to the UK now. Last week, we watched King Charles deliver a speech to mark the 80th anniversary of victory over Japan Day, or VJ Day. Now, Richard Kay, what did this speech mean to King Charles, whose father, Prince Philip, of course, served in the Asia-Pacific region?
Indeed, Prince Philip did serve in the Far East during the war. In fact, he was mentioned in dispatches. He was a very young officer on board HMS Welp, I think, was the ship he was serving on at the time of the Japanese surrender. I think Charles has invested heavily in that aspect of the war, not just because of his father, of course, but because of his great uncle, Lord Mountbatten, who was the Supreme Allied Commander. And of course, he referenced in his speech the words that his grandfather, King George VI, made at the end of the conflict in August 1945. So I think all those things were wrapped up in a very moving audio and video that the King issued ahead of the date.
Well, Charles and Camilla also attended a Servants of Remembrance at the National Memorial Arboretum in Staffordshire, but the King was moved to tears during a speech made by the 104-year-old Captain Yavar Abbas. Richard Kay, this clearly meant a lot to him, didn't it?
It was incredibly moving. I mean, it was particularly personal because this 104-year-old Sikh veteran with a ramrod back, so it reminded me very much of Prince Philip, who was sort of remained perpendicular throughout his life, began his remarks by referencing the fact that the King should be saluted because he was battling cancer, and then just dropped in that he too had suffered cancer. And I think Charles was sort of temporarily overwhelmed by this. You don't often see royals show their emotions in public. And the tears were definitely pricking the back of his eyes, so too the Queen's. And I thought it was a very, very moving episode.
Wow. Well, Richard Eden, you wrote an article this week about how Harry left his own mark at the National Memorial Arboretum. He wasn't even there, though. So how did he do that?
No, this was quite extraordinary. It's that, the royal family were represented by the King and Queen, but Prince Harry was determined to, leave his mark there as well. So a few days later, it emerged via a TV news channel that Harry had a wreath placed in memory with a tribute to his grandfather at the service at the Arboretum. But it wasn't just a wreath. It wasn't just a sort of note saying, with love, memory from Harry. It was with a long letter printed and covered up in plastic so it could be read. So it was clearly left with the view that people were reading it. And it just seemed quite an odd thing to do, frankly.
Well, I tell you what struck me about that. Of course, there is definitely a sense that there was a gap in the lineup of royals on show at that Arboretum ceremony. No Prince William, no Princess Kate. Was Harry filling that gap? Was it a stunt, in other words? It's the kind of thing he has done in the past. It was placed there with the intention that it would be discovered and remarked and reported on, which of course it has been.
And what was the contents of the letter?
The letter's just a long tribute, really, to his grandfather.
Right.
It's interesting, but nothing remarkable in that, but it's the fact that it was left.
Yeah. And
this is not the first time this has happened.
Exactly, I was going to ask you about that. Where else has he done this? In the UK, whilst being in America?
So the reason this is genuinely significant is that in 2021, Prince Harry requested that a wreath be left on his behalf at the Cenotaph, the National War Memorial, on Remembrance Sunday. And this was vetoed by his grandmother, Queen Elizabeth.
That's right, I'd forgotten about this.
Yeah, because her view was, look, you have left Britain, you've quit royal duties. You can't just be kind of, leaving wreaths and, making your mark. Yeah, you're either in or you're out. You have left. So she prevented him from doing that. So it's very significant that he's been able to, he's, felt the need to do so again, and then been allowed to as well. And, I've written about how it has raised concerns at the palace. People, like Richard says, they think there's an element of a sort of stunt, and it shows how the king needs to be firmer with his son, just as Queen Elizabeth was.
But explain to me what you know about how would this be allowed? You know what I mean?
Well, from what we understand, he used a friend to deliver the wreath on his behalf. Now, I don't know whether Richard knows, but I don't think the palace knew this was going to happen.
Right.
And for all those warm words that we heard on this very programme only 2 or 3 weeks ago about how Harry was now coordinating his diary with the king and the rest of the royals at the palace, this would suggest that he isn't. And I have to say that the words he wrote were incredibly moving. It wasn't just about his grandfather, it was about the whole Far Eastern campaign, but it did talk about what he'd learned from his grandfather about the privations all those soldiers of the so-called Forgotten Army and the sailors went through. And I think he was referencing all of that. But the question comes, it comes back, why did he do it? Why did he feel the need to do it? Because it was inevitable it would be found out.
I mean, to me, it shows that Harry can't be trusted. Yes, despite all the warm words about cooperation, we've seen the cosy meeting between representatives of the King and of Harry and Meghan. Then, he's doing this without the royal family knowing.
Alison, what's your view about the message that Harry was trying to send by making this private gesture so public?
I don't think it's a private gesture. It's intended for public consumption, clearly. And it's with inserting himself into the narrative and saying, I'm royal. I've got something to do with this. He's not invited. Why is he here? And he's not willing to come to the UK with his family. He says it's too dangerous. And yet he wants to be represented at a UK event. I think it's a nonsense. I think it actually will make people angry.
The thing to remember is how bitter Harry was at losing his military connections. He genuinely thought he could keep them. And when he gave a speech, after Megxit, as it's known, he made clear that he was very sad to have lost that.
Yeah.
So this is him trying to assert it. And there's big stuff to come, because remember, we've got the Invictus Games in Britain in 2 years'
that's
time.
a while away, yeah.
It is, but I think this is, showing how he, wants to make the most of that. And
picking up on what you were saying about it, it is intended as a very public gesture. Some cynics might even wonder who wrote the letter.
No.
Did the panel have a view on that?
Well, I suspect someone wrote it for him, or at least it is very well written and poignant. But yeah, I suspect from what little I know of Harry's literary abilities, then someone penned it for him.
perhaps he may have had a word with his wonderful ghostwriter of Spare.
I wondered that. Indeed. Yes. Yeah, if they're still talking. Do you think they are?
No. We had lots of rumours that they weren't that close. And in fact, the ghostwriter did write an article about the trouble he'd had. But I think he got paid very well. Yeah.
Yes.
So who knows, he could be available for future commissions.
That book has ruined Elizabeth Arden 8-hour cream for me forevermore.
Oh, let's not even go there, Joe, please.
Anyway, well, listen, it's time for some of your comments now. And many of you were moved by the VJ Day montage we put together for last week's show, including Tracy Treblecox, who said, "The VJ Day montage has me in tears. Thank you to the brave men and women from the greatest generation. Your love for the montage did not go unnoticed. Some people even said it should be shown in schools." Well, stick around for another one of our world-renowned montages at the end of this episode. We know you love them. Pam Jeffers also enjoyed last week's montage and said, "Fantastic work. I have a question. Do you all think that King Charles will ever release any of their home movies from when he was little? Wouldn't that be great?" Richard Kay, you must have a view on this as a possibility. And I did notice they put some stuff on their Instagram the other day.
They have, and they will, and they do. From time to time, the King has raided the archive and brought out some wonderful home movies of him with his grandmother, with his father and mother. There's a wonderful one of him in a toy car. I remember went out on the Queen's 90th birthday. So I think this is something they're very conscious of. And I think he knows how much the public like it. And I'm sure that we'll see more of it in the future.
Yeah, indeed. And Terry Trammell shared his own remarkable story with us. He said, "My dad's plane was shot down during World War II over an unpronounceable lake in Italy. I have received word that his remains are being found and that he will be returned home soon for a proper burial. His plane went down when I was 3 months old, and I've just celebrated my 82nd birthday. I'm grateful and humbled by this remarkable news. God bless all the men and women who fought, died, or lived to tell their stories. Truly the greatest generation." Terry, it's just blown us all away, that story, and it just really, it makes it so personal what this whole memorial service is about. We really do wish you all the best from everybody here at Palace Confidential. And as you know, last Friday was a busy day, as not only was it VJ Day, but it was Princess Anne's 75th birthday. And Jane Spencer had this to say: "Hello to all. Princess Anne was at a horse trial in Hamilton, Massachusetts. We knew Princess Anne had started the course as the jump judges' walkie-talkies were crackling. She came up to the jump and her horse decided, nope. Her horse went east, she went north. A judge caught her horse. Princess Anne stood up, dusted herself off, and said a light expletive in a beautiful voice. She went over to check her horse, gave it a good pat, got back on and loped away. I have been a fan ever since. Thank you all, front and back, for a wonderful show." That is an extraordinary story. We don't have the year of that story, but I love it.
Could be any year.
Exactly. It could have been yesterday, couldn't it? This made us curious. How many of you have had weird and wonderful interactions with the royal family? I'm slightly scared to ask that question, but I look forward to the comments anyway. Do leave your story in the comments below, and you never know, we might read yours out on the next show. Now, one of the biggest royal stories at the moment is Harry and Meghan's Netflix, as well as the upcoming series With Love Meghan. But Valerie told us, "I have absolutely no intention of watching the next 8 episodes of With Love Meghan." Thank you for your honesty, Valerie. "I will listen to Richard on his musing if he still has the will to live after suffering on our behalf." Now, Richard, I've heard a rumour that you, cheeky chappy, are going to be on holiday next Tuesday when the series comes out. So surely you'll be watching it from a sun lounger somewhere.
Oh, what wonderful timing that holiday is. Just a coincidence.
I think you'll still be watching it.
I'm sure there's a limit to how much I will suffer on behalf of this programme. Okay,
Look, I've told you it's a soothing show. It's perfect for holidays.
I will try and watch some, but not necessarily when I'm trying to relax on holiday. It's not the way I would choose to relax.
Well, I hear you're leaving poor Alison to take one for the team. You're going to be watching it next week.
Every minute that I can, as soon as I can.
Twice over, maybe on double speed.
No,
maybe.
I don't double speed it. I'm old school. I'm going to watch the whole... I enjoy it. I enjoy watching it. I enjoy all of the things that it shows you that it doesn't mean to show you. We're all watching it in a slightly meta way, aren't we? And also, the great thing about the show is she hasn't had the chance, because it was all shot in one block, to change any of the things that made us all grind our teeth the first time around. So all the stuff that she's been mocked for, as you say, laughing at pretzels, it's going to be there again.
Pretzels are hilarious.
So, if you enjoyed, maybe hate watching Series 1, Series 2 is the treat for you.
There you go. And you will be able to watch Alison's reaction on this very YouTube channel, so look out for that. And I say this, but it's true. We love reading your comments, so do keep them coming. As always, try to remember to keep things respectful. That way you've got more chance of it being read out. Now, back to my panel for what has proved to be a very controversial story this week. Princess Catherine, Princess of Wales, was seen selecting a 24-seater dining table. Does this mean, Richard, that finally Team Palace Confidential might be getting an invite to sit around that table?
We can live in hope,
Yeah.
but
I
wouldn't cancel any engagements. What's going on is that the Waleses are on the move yet again, and to the surprise of many, they have selected another home within Windsor Great Park. They're not coming back to their fabulous Kensington Palace apartment, but they're upscaling from Little Adelaide Cottage to the much more impressive Forest Lodge, 8 bedrooms, tennis courts, barrel dance floor, all sorts of things.
Sounds quite nice.
And the princess has indeed been looking for the appropriate furniture. Now, she hasn't got to buy anything. Of course she hasn't, because the royals have at Windsor Castle on the estate an enormous storage area known as California Stores. It's called California because it's vast, like the state of California.
Oh, and I would give to just have a reach around there.
I'm told it is the most amazing place, bigger than any kind of museum's overspill place. And from that, she has always said to be choosing a large dining table to put into the new home.
So what is this storage made of? Is it just gifts that they've had that they've got nowhere to put? Is it that sort of thing?
No, it's well, some of it will be gifts, of course, because they get given all sorts of things, but a lot of it is sort of surplus furniture, artworks, things which aren't quite valuable enough for the royal collection. But don't forget, a lot of royals have come and gone over the centuries, and they've kept everything, and it all ends up in this vast depository.
Oh, I really want to have a look. I really do. Well, anyway, coming back to this question of the moving, famously, after the Second World War, Churchill instructed Queen Elizabeth to stay living in Buckingham Palace, famously saying, "You need to live over the shop." Can't do the voice. So if William were to live out of Forest Lodge instead of Buckingham Palace when he becomes king, would this be the end of how we know the monarchy?
Well, it would be hugely significant because traditionally, and for 200 years, the monarch has lived at the headquarters of the monarchy, which is Buckingham Palace. None of them have really liked it very much. I mean, neither Queen Elizabeth nor Prince Philip were entirely happy about having to give up their very cosy apartment that they had in Clarence House.
I was going to say, I bet you Buckingham Palace is quite hard to keep warm.
I bet it is.
Yeah.
It's hard, it's drafty, there are multiple rooms. It's not cozy, it's not homely. But, nevertheless, the late Queen did make it her home. She raised her children there. They all had their own apartments there. But the King, interestingly enough, has not lived there a single night since he became monarch. Obviously, there is a reason for that. The palace is undergoing an enormously expensive refit, which is taking a decade or so. But it has been very convenient for him because Charles and Camilla much prefer the comforts of Clarence House. And even when this work is completed, I'd be quite surprised if they do formally move into the palace. As to William, well, he is determined to do things in an entirely different way. I think, this is the least of what we're going to be in for when William is king. I would be astonished if he lived in Buckingham Palace or indeed any of the other big royal castles and homes.
Well, speaking of that, some critics have pointed out, Richard Eden, that it isn't the first time we've seen the Walesers moving into a forever home.
No, I'm not sure we sort of use that phrase "forever home" when it comes to the royal family because they do move around more than others might. But we kind of heard that phrase used when their apartment at Kensington Palace. I'm sort of hesitant to use that word apartment because viewers might think of a flat in a block, but apartments at Kensington Palace is actually a huge house. In anything in London, it's a massive house which was done up, renovated. For the couple. They're historic buildings, so they need to be done up, but that was using public money. I think it was about £2 million. That will remain their London home, their London base, and they carry out, plenty of engagements there. But who knows when he's king, what will be used? I mean, obviously, then you would expect him to, if not live at Buckingham Palace, at least carry out official engagements there.
Now, Forest Lodge, obviously, it's the kind of place that will remain in the fantasies of the likes of you and me, but it's not grand in comparison to other royal properties. Do you think this is some sort of attempt for William to appear more relatable?
Well, I think he certainly wants to. I think he sort of craves that more regular lifestyle, and that's, to be honest, I think that's part of the huge appeal of Catherine and the Middleton family to him, is that he did kind of want that more cosy, you could say, middle-class lifestyle. And this is a reflection of that. The problem is that's quite hard to maintain.
I was just thinking about compared to my middle-class lifestyle. It's slightly different.
Yeah, but it's quite hard to maintain, when he's monarch. Generally, our kings and queens, they live in palaces. You could argue that's the whole point.
Yeah.
And it goes with the job, so...
It's tricky, isn't it, Alison? Because he wants to have this balance between raising his family the right way, and sort of like the more humble, the more authentic, the better. But he's also the future king, and there comes a certain expectation of regality with that. So, what, in your view, is the balance?
I just think it's such a load of garbage. Honestly.
Oh, you can come back, Alison.
I know, because it's kind of cosplaying as a middle-class person. I think it's actually an insult. You're the heir to the throne. Go and live in the palace, bring in the tourists, turn up, cut ribbons, smile, get your beautiful wife to turn up in a beautiful frock. It all adds to the nation's soft power. It genuinely has an economic angle, economic significance to the tourism industry. And I just think there's kind of, we want privacy. Well, you can be private in a palace. I mean, I just think it's just faffing around at our expense. And I just think it's rubbish.
But maybe they just really like that place.
Well, tough luck.
I thought you were going to say something else then.
I'm not going to say it. Yeah. But isn't it tough luck?
Yeah.
I do.
Oh gosh, darn it, I'm going to have to live in a palace. Go, woe is me, how awful.
I do think part of the appeal for tourism of palaces is the fact that they are lived in by the royal family.
When I first moved to London, I was always very excited to see whether that standard was raised or not. Oh, she's in, she's out.
Yeah, exactly.
Otherwise it might as well be Hampton Court, which is lovely and does draw tourists, but Buckingham Palace draws more because it's the monarch's residence.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the Spanish royal family, for example, Palacio Real in Madrid is a beautiful place, but it doesn't have nearly as much attraction because no royal family lives there.
It's like an office.
Yeah, they live in a much smaller property, outside Madrid. And it's, I think, Prince William does kind of aspire to that more. He wants the smaller scale monarchy, but that's traditionally not what we've had in this country.
Indeed. Well, and just when you thought the story ended there, the Mail on Sunday revealed that two families were asked to leave their homes so that Catherine and William could move into Forest Lodge. Was this as bad as it sounds, Richard Kay?
I suspect not. I mean, part of this, and Alison touched on it, this sort of slightly faux idea of happy families that William and Kate have created. They're not overrun with staff. They don't have flunkies in liveried uniforms. But in fact, we understand these properties which are being requisitioned will house a nanny and a housekeeper and presumably their protection staff as well. It doesn't look good, but these properties are they're owned by by the Crown Estate. The monarch can decide who's in them and who isn't at any one stage, and they'll be accommodated somewhere else.
Yeah, I think I read that actually where they've ended up accommodated is nicer.
Well, there we are.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. Richard Eden, obviously, this old chestnut always comes up. You know, the critics of the royal family angry at how much this move will cost the taxpayer. Does it have any basis in reality, that point?
No, well, the palace sources have made clear that this move will be funded from their private income. So there's not going to be any new charges. It's not a historic building like Kensington Palace was that needed that public money. So that will be paid for. I mean, the only question is security.
Well, I was going to ask Richard Kay that, but yes. Well,
right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll let Richard talk
sorry,
about
no,
that.
but it's like, is it more trouble than it's worth? Because any new move does bring around rearrangements in security.
Well, it most certainly does. I mean, after the King and Queen, William and Catherine have the highest profile security team. And they are moving from an area of Windsor Great Park, which was within what is known as the security envelope, to a house which is outside it. So that there must inevitably be some cost implications in that. It's close to a shop. Richard was saying to me earlier on that there's a road running nearby. All those sort of issues will be security problems for the Scotland Yard team who look after them. And there will therefore be cost, and who will pick up that cost? Well, the taxpayer.
There you have it. Well, do you think Prince William and his family should be told to live in Buckingham Palace? Do scan the QR code on screen now to have your say on the Palace Confidential newsletter. Moving on now, Buckingham Palace released 75 facts about Princess Anne to mark her 75th birthday. Now, loyal viewers will remember that Richard and Rebecca picked out their favourite facts on last week's show. And Alison, we don't want you to feel left out. Did you have a favourite fact?
I had one. It was a fact that I knew, but I was reminded of when I read it in the list, which is that Princess Anne had been on A Question of Sport. It was the first royal to kind of really dip her toe in February 1987. And I thought, this is really interesting for now because we've all forgotten about it. 19 million people viewed it. Can you imagine getting those ratings?
Those were the days.
Oh, those were the days.
Yeah.
She didn't embarrass herself. She was herself. She teased Emily Hughes. She was funny. She didn't embarrass herself or the royal family. It passed off without incident. And 6 months later was It's a Royal Knockout. And thus began the utter disaster of the royal family and their association with appearing on television.
It was the best day of your life, wasn't it, Richard?
It was wonderful. I'll never forget it. But look, in the spirit of the Princess Anne industry, may I just say, I was at an event yesterday where speeches were being made about Anne, and on the basis that this is she's now in her 76th year. Here's a 76th fact, which wasn't on the Buckingham Palace list. But in 1984, which was the year of her transformation, by the way, from sourpuss princess to caring, concerned monarch, it's when basically Fleet Street suddenly got the point of Princess Anne and the public began warming to her. She was on an amazing tour all over Africa, and she'd been up for the best part of 24 hours, and you had to get from somewhere up, like from Kenya, I think, down to South Africa. And her protection officers had also been up for the best part of 24 hours. And they arrived in this very warm room in southern Africa, and the protection officer was leading the way, and he opened, and the door was opened, and he went forward and fell flat on his face. He fainted. And he fainted and bashed his face and head on the ground. And when he came to, it was only a matter of seconds, the angel who was attending to him was, of course, Princess Anne, who was bending down. And she was being very conscientious and hoping he was okay. But then she whispered in his ear, "You're not the Pope, Colin." At which point, he sharply got up, blood streaming from his nose.
That's fantastic.
You're not the Pope, Colin.
I mean, when you think about it, maybe that should have been on the 75 facts, because Richard Eden, there was something bizarre was included, wasn't there, that you reported on?
Yes, this was a bit unfortunate. I mean, it's sort of there, but for the grace of God go I, because as journalists, we all make mistakes.
No, I've never done that. No.
And this was Buckingham Palace had the list, and we used it last week, but then it disappeared, and we thought, oh my goodness, what happened? Well, it turned out they'd included a howler where they said that Princess Anne had 2 stepchildren. via her husband, who had 2 children. Well, no, he doesn't have any children. He wasn't married before. And at first we thought, oh, is this some, big revelation that we should know about? But it turned out it was an error, and it had been lifted from what they described as a reputable publication. And it's since, there were lots of suspicions that artificial intelligence may have been used while writing this original article.
Okay.
But I've spoken to people since then, and they've reassured me, no, it was just a terrible mistake. But I don't know where they got the information from.
Let's blame AI. Let's keep our jobs.
Yeah.
We need the real people.
I think if in doubt, blame AI.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Blame those robots.
Yeah, damn those robots. Well, speaking of Princess Anne, remember that Richard's latest Reading the Royals episode about her relationship with Queen Camilla will play straight after this. Did you hear that? It is time for our Unsung Royal Hero of the Week, and I'm coming to you, Richard Eden, because you have nominated Princess Beatrice. Tell me all about this.
Yes, I'd like to nominate Beatrice because she's gone to Balmoral this week, and she's made a point of taking her stepson, Christopher, aged 9, known as Wolfie. And I just think it's lovely, the relationship that she has. It's the son by her husband Edo's previous relationship, but she seems to be, a mother to Wolfie, and he clearly loves her and is going to have a great time this week. I think he was looking forward to all the outdoor pursuits, the swimming in the rivers and that sort of thing.
So Richard Kay thinks that's a punishment.
In Balmoral.
But no, he's clearly won the family. I mean, viewers may have seen him on parade at Sandringham, actually.
Yeah.
But now he's getting the Balmoral treat too.
They've really got this blended family thing worked out, haven't they, Richard?
Well, they have. I mean, from the very top. I mean, the King's got a blended family, and it's nice to see Beatrice sort of taking it on. Maybe we can start reassessing that wicked stepmother trope that's often thrown at.
Exactly. Well, I know at the moment it's sort of fashionable to, criticise Prince Andrew and Fergie, but just as they've shown how couples can separate and still get on well, I think Beatrice is showing that. You can have stepchildren, everything's great, and just forget about these stereotypes of wicked stepmothers.
Although, just to be clear, Princess Anne has no stepchildren, am I right? That's just
she does not.
We're
no.
not soft launching the scandal.
Indeed. Now, we have spoken a lot about royal properties in this episode, from the family currently gathering at Balmoral for their holidays and the Wales family moving to Forest Lodge. So we thought it was only right to dedicate this week's montage to the stunning royal residences across the UK. Don't be too envious, just enjoy. that'd be nice, wouldn't it? I'd love to live in any one of those, even the smaller ones. But that is all for today. A reminder, you can sign up to the Palace Confidential newsletter by scanning the QR code on screen now with your phone camera, or just click the link in the description. If you've enjoyed this episode, why don't you subscribe to the Daily Mail Royals YouTube channel? You won't regret it, I promise. As always, thanks to my panellists, Richard Eden, Richard Kay, and Alison Boshoff. And we'll see you next time on Palace Confidential. Bye for now.